Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex, my co-host beside me, Anthony Rivardo. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe below. As always, my friends, today we're going to be taking a look at Wan'Dale Robinson, second round pick from the Giants. A lot of people a little bit concerned maybe he was chosen too early. Joe Shane came out and kind of said, he's a guy that we really like with the ball in his hands. He's electric. He's a great route runner. He does a lot of things that we like. And I kind of want to talk about how the Giants may deploy him, what purpose he serves. He does have the smallest wingspan in the NFL. Anthony's mentioned this a couple times. There are limitations when it comes to a guy that's 5'8" and 179 pounds. He's very, very small. But, there are ways to also capitalize on an athlete who really was the best for Kentucky last year. The second best productive offensive player for Kentucky, I think, was Josh Ali, and he only produced 610 yards, and Robinson had over 1,300 yards. So the guy is obviously capable of dominating against pretty good talent. He played in the SEC. The film that we have for you today, most of it's from the game against Georgia. So Georgia obviously being one of the better teams around in college football. I wanted to take a look at that game specifically because Wan'Dale Robinson put on some really, really good highlights and really showcased what he's capable of doing as a route runner. Anthony also, has some concerns about him, which are definitely notable. And I definitely want to dive into those different concerns and, if they are legitimate for the NFL. But Anthony, before we dive into Wan'Dale Robinson out of Kentucky, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to take a look at Wan'Dale Robinson. These draft prospects always need a further evaluation. You need to dive a little bit deeper. But the things that you read about Wan'Dale, you read some things that are really exciting, right? Because of his production level. I mean, he had over 1,000 yards. He was really productive for Kentucky's offense. He did play in the SEC, as you mentioned. But then you read some other things that are somewhat concerning, right? The shortest wingspan in the NFL. His catch radius will be the smallest out of any receiver in the league. And those types of things do show up on the tape, and they are a little bit concerning. And then you also read a little bit further and you see that most of his yardage was produced on screens, on swings. So he wasn't actually creating most of his own yardage, which is always a huge concern to me for wide receiver prospects. Now, I think that there's potential for this pick. I see the value in a player with Wan'Dale's skill set, though I do think his skill set is pretty similar to Kadarius Toney's. I don't want to judge it too prematurely. Of course, he hasn't even sniffed an NFL field yet. But Wan'Dale Robinson was a questionable pick in the second round, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many Giants fans. But without further ado, I'm excited to dive into the film and take a closer look at what he could provide to the Giants offense.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dive into the film, I just wanted to kind of rattle off a couple statistics so you have an idea of what he did last season. So last year, he put up 1,342 receiving yards, 12.9 yards per catch, 7 receiving touchdowns, and he caught 104 out of 140 targets. Most of his snaps came in the slot, 487 slot snaps out of 726. Overall, he's a guy that, being as small as he is, you want him closer to the center of the field. You want him in the slot. You want him close enough that you can put him in pre-snap motion. That's what you're going to see a lot of Wan'Dale Robinson. He is a pre-snap motion maestro. The Giants had a 7.5% pre-snap motion rate. I spoke about this yesterday in the red zone offense kind of details there. So 7.5%. Buffalo is at 34%. The Chiefs, I think, were around 65%. They obviously wanted a guy who they could constantly be moving around the line of scrimmage and they also can depend on him to be healthy. Kadarius Toney has had his health issues throughout college and the NFL. Once Kadarius Toney's off the field, and Sterling Shepard probably not going to be a long-term solution anymore, coming off the torn Achilles. Wan'Dale Robinson is their guy in terms of being reliable, but also constantly being able to be used in pre-snap motion. I think, Anthony, you love the pre-snap motion. You love what it offers. Of course, it gives the quarterback more information, ranging from determining if, the coverage is man or zone, shifting defenders out of alignment, just giving you a little bit more space. There's a lot of things that pre-snap motion can do for an offense, just the minor details that give you an advantage. And Wan'Dale Robinson is really good at those specific things. So if there's any reason to like Wan'Dale Robinson, is that he's going to improve that factor for the Giants. The question is, what kind of impact can he make at his size in the NFL? Well, looking at his stats from last year, he forced 22 missed tackles. That's good for 6th in all of college football. He ranked 6th in deep catches with 16. He ranked 3rd with 35 screen catches and 4th in screen yards at 268. And he made 9 contested catches. So, he's not going to be the most, lethal guy when it comes to contested catches. His wingspan is really small. If you look at his metrics, his height, weight, and arm length are all below average. In fact, his arm length is in the 0th percentile of all players, of all receivers in this draft class, he is a tiny, tiny receiver, right? That's why he was a running back in Nebraska. The first clip we're going to show you in the film is from his days in Nebraska. However, despite him being so small, the guy put up 19 bench press reps, which is the 89th percentile of receivers. And considering how small he is, that's absolutely absurd. He's extremely strong for how small he is. His 20-yard shuttle was above average at 4.13. His 40-yard dash, 4.44. Nothing crazy, but his game speed, he doesn't have the blow the defense off the top kind of speed, but his his agility and mobility, like Kadarius Toney, is what you're really using him for. So that's really interesting. He's going to be mostly a slot receiver in the NFL. He's going to be an extension of the running game. But Anthony, let's dive into the film here and kind of take a look at the first clip against Nebraska. It is quite interesting. So right off the bat here, you're going to see he's lined up as the halfback. And basically, I could see the Giants kind of using him in this way. When Saquon Barkley's not on the field, maybe just having Wan'Dale Robinson in like a third down scenario, or maybe even like a dual running back scenario where they kind of split out the running backs out on the flanks. And, Robinson's a good receiver, obviously. So getting him the ball in space is ideal. This is how I think he kind of an extension of the running game, how he would be. Getting him the ball here and letting him work. He has about 10 yards of space here. I think this is how the Giants may look to use him as kind of this de facto scat back. In addition to being a slot receiver, he has a lot of roles he can fill, Anthony. But, just looking at this specifically, how does this kind of make you feel in terms of how the Giants may use him?
I mean, the number one thing with Wan'Dale Robinson is that he can be used in a variety of ways. He's very versatile. He can line up in the backfield. He lines up in the slot. You can use him as a receiver. You can use him as a scat back. Obviously, you're not going to run him between the tackles, but on end arounds and sweeps and plays just like this one, where it's kind of a screen out of the backfield, those types of plays Wan'Dale Robinson can be effective in. But again, Kadarius Toney was also effective with this. He also lined up in the backfield before. So it's just interesting to see the Giants doubling down on that same skill set. Now, I think that the Giants offense is going to be far more creative this year than it was last year under Jason Garrett. So we're going to see a lot more plays like this, in my opinion. We're going to see Wan'Dale lining up in the backfield. We're going to see Kadarius lining up in the backfield. And we're going to see the two of them really get creative in their usage of those receivers. So Wan'Dale here, obviously just catching a swing pass out of the backfield and taking it upfield, a little bit elusive, breaks a couple tackles, gets a first down. That's what you love to see. That's pretty much how he's going to be optimized within his usage. Now, some might argue maybe he could have a role similar to Cordarrelle Patterson. I would say maybe, but Cordarrelle Patterson is also 6'2", 220 pounds. He can run between the tackles. Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't have that ability. So he's more like, the size of him is more like Darren Sproles, but then you also take a look at the weight of Darren Sproles, and he's significantly heavier than Wan'Dale. Wan'Dale's a very frail man. He's very skinny. He's very short. It's kind of hard to see him actually lining up in the backfield in the NFL game that frequently. Now, again, on the swing passes, the screen passes, yeah, potentially, but I don't see him really taking many handoffs in the future unless he's taking them from the slot receiver position on the jet sweep. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Giants use him. But again, the main takeaway from him lining up in the backfield and everything is that he is versatile. He's lined up in a variety of positions, and the Giants expect them to utilize him in a very versatile way.
Right, yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going to be taking many handoffs. He's definitely not close to Cordarrelle Patterson. I think he's like Isaiah McKenzie, what the Buffalo Bills had last year. He can run the ball on some slight occasions. He's really good in motion. He can do a couple things. He's small on the smaller side. I think Wan'Dale Robinson could be better than Isaiah McKenzie personally. Here's kind of what if I'm trying to put my head in the space of Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, I'm kind of thinking like this. We want as many players that when we give them touches, they're going to be they're going to be explosive, right? They want to have guys who can make something out of nothing, that can take it to the house at any given moment. When you have Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney, and Wan'Dale Robinson on the field at the same time, eventually one of those guys is going to have an electric play. Especially if they're all healthy at the same time. Wan'Dale Robinson, as I said before, I think is better when he's closer to the center of the field, kind of hiding over here in coverage. Let's take a look at what he does here. So nice little end around here. They use him in a lot of ways. Kentucky used him constantly as a gadget player, right? A lot. He did well as a receiver too, don't get me wrong, but he was also used a lot as a gadget player. And that's the main concern for people, right? Did we just spend a second round pick on a gadget player? Can he beat cornerbacks in the NFL who are faster, stronger, more physical, better reaction timing? They're just overall better players. But then again, you look at Wan'Dale Robinson, dominated in the SEC. That's a pretty damn good accomplishment. So maybe it will translate to the NFL. But even just as a gadget player, he can make things happen. He's so small, so shifty. He can hide behind these blockers. There is, value to a player like that. The question is, basically the only way he's going to be able to justify being a second round pick is if he can make an impact as a receiver at the next level. Is he going to get arm tackled easily by linebackers or guys off the edge? Like there's even corners. Like that's the main concern. He's small and he's not the strongest guy. But I will say this: there's a couple of plays in here where he pushes the pile. Like he does not go down easily. He's stronger than he looks. So I do think that he kind of has underrated strength there, paired with his athleticism. So we'll kind of comb through those clips as we get to him.
Yeah, and in terms of discussing whether or not he's a gadget player, in my opinion, he is a gadget player. I do feel like the Giants did draft a gadget player in the second round. Now, that's going to be something that people are going to say, you don't draft a gadget player that early. Why would you do that? But what if they just drafted the best gadget player in the league that early, right? If he's the best gadget player, then it's worth it, right? So, everybody's got to wait, give him time to develop and see what he does and what his impact is at the next level. But of course, seeing plays like that, the end arounds, the jet sweeps, the swing passes, stuff like that, it does scream gadget player, and that is primarily how he was used for Kentucky. And I do predict that that's primarily how he will be used for the Giants, as a gadget player.
Yeah, I mean, look, as you watch this film, you're gonna kind of realize he's a mini Kadarius Toney, right? He is a small version of Kadarius Toney, quick twitch, agile. You can use him in gadget ways. You can also use him as a receiver. There's a lot you can do with him. He's a screen catching maestro. That is what Kadarius Toney is. He makes guys miss in the open field. He's a miniature version of that, but he also is a healthy version of that. So that, there are benefits to having him. Because if they're going to build a scheme that really focuses on this West Coast kind of get guys into space, but also kind of a spread like you're seeing right now, like there is value to having guys who can supplement. If Kadarius Toney gets injured, which he's proven to be liable in that area, having a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, you won't have to skip a beat on offense. You can always rely on him to be there and at least help the offense still move around. But here you'll see he does a pretty good job of fighting for extra yards here. Like he picks up an extra 5 yards with 3 Georgia defenders on him. So like I said before, he has some decent strength to him. I will say this: I don't know what on earth the Georgia defense is doing here. Why are you playing a guy this off coverage when this is his strength? Like literally you're just giving him yards. You're just giving him yards. That's all you're doing. Unless they're scared of getting beat deep by him, just double him downfield. Like Kentucky does not have that many playmakers. They're giving him this space, and it's kind of like doesn't make much sense because it's easy yards and easy open field misforced tackles for him. But like he takes a guy 5 yards, so he has some underrated strength there. I'll give him that.
Yeah, and I'll say on this play particularly, I could see how he would be a perfect scheme fit for the Giants, right? Because this is a spread offense look, right? Look at how spread out it is. It's empty backfield. I expect the Giants to have a lot more empty backfield looks this upcoming season than we've seen from them in years past, because Brian Daboll did utilize a lot of empty backfields with Josh Allen in Buffalo. So when you're talking about Daniel Jones and what's this offense going to look like with Daniel Jones, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale, Kenny Golladay, how is this going to look? Well, on a play like this, you're probably seeing Wan'Dale lining up exactly where he is. And on the opposite side of the field in the slot, you're probably seeing Kadarius Toney. And then outside of him, you're seeing Shepard. And outside of Wan'Dale, you're seeing Kenny G. So there is a way where you could see how Wan'Dale Robinson fits perfectly into this offensive scheme, and into a spread offense. And basically, when you have a spread offense like that, every now and then a cornerback is going to be playing 15 yards off or 10 yards off, and you're going to have one of your quick underneath guys able to catch like a 5-yard hitch and just take it upfield and get a first down. And that's exactly what Wan'Dale Robinson does here. So when you're talking about how does he fit into the New York Giants offense, it's because of plays like this, because we know that the Giants offense is going to be more spread out and it's going to be utilizing more run and catch plays. So this play right here, I think, is a perfect example about how Wan'Dale Robinson can fit into Brian Daboll's offense.
Right. And you can see every single receiver here runs a hitch. Kind of gave me nightmares of Jason Garrett right there. But it's you're right. Like if you're spreading out the offense, eventually you're going to get an opportunity here where you have a guy in space, especially, the KTs and the Robinsons of the world. And he carries the guys for a couple yards. So I did like that about him. Showed some strength and power there. That's something that you want to see in the NFL. He just 100% effort every play. I think that's what Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll were kind of going for. So this is a little drop here, a little concentration drop. Didn't want to show all highlights, obviously. So he did have a couple drops last season, but not really concerned for his game. He does have really small hands too, so there's that. But at the end of the day, like it's going to happen. Some guys just drop some passes every now and then. Wanted to throw it out there. This is one of my favorite routes of this entire game against Georgia. You're going to see him kind of in the slot here, and he does a great job at the stem of this route, stutter stepping and just completely leaving this defensive back in his wake. And it's really impressive to see. So you'll see stutter step. He gives him a little jab step inside. The DB has to react, and he's all, look how off balance he is. He's trying to grab him, trying to catch up. This is, if the quarterback sees this, probably an easy touchdown in the NFL. Beats him with ease, right over top. There's nobody stopping him there. I mean, he's gone. Like if the quarterback gets this pass off, instead he throws the screen to the left side. I think that was kind of the design there, but Robinson absolutely toasts him. So I did like that about it. And Anthony, I'll give you a chance to respond to these two plays right here after this one, because this is my favorite route of Robinson's entire clip so far that I've watched. I've watched a couple of games, and I love how he crosses the face of the defensive back here. Now, it's interesting because they're playing like a cover 2 man here, and they have 2 deep safeties. And this is kind of an opportunity for Robinson to determine, okay, who is manned up against me? Is it the close DB or is it the far DB? So he waits a second to see which defensive back goes to who. He sees number 5, latches on to his teammate there, and he sees the deep guy, and he's like, okay, I'm just going to put a move on him. Jab step to the left. The DB bites, and he just crosses his face easily for a nice little reception there. If he doesn't slip, this is to the house. I don't know what that safety was doing, trying to come underneath of that. Didn't make any sense to me. But if he gets this, man, if he catches this and doesn't slip right here, this is to the house. I think he thought he was going to get hit. Just wanted to corral the pass. But those 2 plays right there, those are probably some of the nicer routes that I've seen him run in terms of just getting separation and crossing the face of the defensive backs who were kind of just playing square to him. But Anthony, like, what is your impression of that in terms of him as a route runner?
Yeah, in terms of him as a route runner, I think that I see some traits here, but I'm not sure I'm seeing really translatable. This is great route running, right? Like right here on this play, I do like, I see what you're referring to. The stem of the route, there is no jam, which is something I'm going to bring up on the next play as well. But at the top of the route, he does do a good job getting behind the cornerback. You can see the cornerback clearly reaching and trying to play catch up. And so that means that Wan'Dale did beat him on this route. Now, of course, Wan'Dale doesn't even finish the route because he knows that the ball is not coming his way because it was a designed screen pass. And it looks like the screen pass went for a touchdown if you play it all the way through. But Wan'Dale did beat his cornerback here. He did beat his man. So there is something to say that there's value there. Now here, lining up as a Z, lining up behind the line of scrimmage, pretty significantly far off of the line of scrimmage is what it looks like to me, playing behind the X receiver. Now, main thing here is, again, the stem. There is no jam. If Wan'Dale gets jammed, I don't trust him to get open. He's 5'8", he's 179 pounds. You never want to see him actually deal with press coverage. And that's why Kentucky used him in this way, where he's lining up as a Z receiver and he's got an X receiver right in front of him. And that's probably how the Giants are going to use him as well. They're not going to line him up outside. They're not going to line him up as an X receiver on the line of scrimmage. He's always going to be playing with a buffer. And that's fine. But again, 2nd round pick. But if you go back to this route, I'll say what I do like. He is running just a skinny post. It's a very normal skinny post. It's a really quick, read for the quarterback. It's a two-player read. He's reading those 2 receivers, and whichever one breaks open, whichever one the safety doesn't take, basically is getting the ball. And all it is whether or not the receiver gets open. And Wan'Dale does do a really good job here getting open, because when you're running a skinny post like that, so the stem is breaking up at about 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage. And the cornerback is playing about 10 yards off of the line of scrimmage. So basically, you have to get to the spot that the corner is playing at and then beat him, which makes it a little bit more difficult. It's not like Wan'Dale is beating him at the line of scrimmage and gaining a step on him early on in this play. It's basically running up to him and then choosing a way to beat him. And he does a really good job. The head fake is phenomenal. He really sells it. And then he does break it off on the inside for the skinny post. He creates a ton of separation here, and this is a great play. I'll say at the end of it, he makes a nice catch. It does look like he was maybe shying away from contact, as you mentioned, Alex, but he did secure it. Nice possession catch. Makes a big play here. This is a 1st down. It's a big gain. This is a really good route. This is one of those plays where you could say maybe he's got a little bit more to him than just being a gadget player that catches screen and swing passes. So I really like this play. This is definitely the most impressive play in the film, in my opinion, and I like what he was able to do on the route.
Yep. So let's take a look here. And Anthony, you mentioned this a lot about when you're kind of getting parallel to the field, that you want to kind of come back to the quarterback a little bit and give your guys a little bit of room. So he does a decent job of that. And like we also said before, he has a tiny, tiny wingspan. So if you're a quarterback, you don't have much room for error. And I think that's probably what's going to get him in trouble the most. And it also may put Daniel Jones in a bit of trouble, or whoever's playing quarterback for the Giants, that is. They have to be impeccably accurate when throwing him the ball on these out routes, or even going downfield. They have to be super accurate. He's not going to win 50-50 balls. He's not going to win contested catches. That's not his MO. However, he is able to create a little bit of separation. That is what he does. He is quick, agile. He's a good route runner. If you're a quarterback and you have good timing with Wan'Dale Robinson, you're going to feast. He's going to do really well with you. So I think it's going to take time. Like that's the problem with the kind of the situation. I expect a lot of screen passes and short yardage stuff, like just getting him the ball in space for Daniel Jones, because it's going to make DJ look a lot better on paper. The stats are going to really, really look good because of what Wan'Dale Robinson and KT can do on the field in terms of just creating production, creating yards on the go. But for the future, you want your quarterback and Robinson to have more timing routes. Like this has to be very well timed, because when he makes that jab step and he goes outside, he has a window of opportunity. He doesn't have blow the top off of a defense speed. Cornerbacks are going to be able to catch up to him. You'll see in a couple of plays, he gets caught, going downfield. He has a really nice dash down the field, kind of running vertical, but he gets caught and doesn't make it to the end zone. I think that faster corners, especially those guys in the slot that are a little bit quicker, are going to not have a totally big problem like catching up to him if the timing routes are not really on par. So this is a good route, though, because he's kind of going up against a bigger DB here, and it's a nice throw with good timing. So that was solid. I liked that. But ultimately, the quarterback's got to be accurate. That's the end of the day. Like, the quarterback's got to be accurate because he does not have a big wingspan to get this ball into.
Yeah, it was a good throw and a catch. And, you mentioned the drifting back to the quarterback or drifting upfield. He does not drift upfield here. He does run this. It is parallel to, his line. He stays on the right line. He comes a little bit closer to the quarterback. So he runs a good route here. Slot out route, it's a good play. It's a very accurate throw, and that's what you're going to need. Again, you mentioned it. Very short wingspan, 0th percentile in arm length. So the throws are going to need to be accurate. If Daniel Jones is targeting Wan'Dale Robinson downfield, he's going to have to put that ball on the money.
Yeah, that's basically the biggest concern. Like, if this ball, and DJ has been known to throw a little bit lofty sometimes, he misses on occasion here, especially if he's under pressure. Like, Wan'Dale's not going to catch them. Like, he doesn't have the size to catch those passes. That's why you have Kenny Golladay. So, when I'm looking, I don't think we're going to see many routes like this from Wan'Dale. I think it's going to be mostly Kadarius Toney and Kenny Golladay, making these kind of plays. But he's going to be probably used a little bit more in a gadget style. But he does have that Kadarius Toney quickness. I wanted to kind of display that on this play specifically. Look at the jab step he puts on this guy. This defender completely turns around. So he's like, where the hell did Wan'Dale just go, man? Like, so that's, I kind of wanted to show, like, he's a mini Kadarius Toney in the sense that, like, he jukes guys out of their shoes. Like, they don't even know where he's disappeared to. It's not going to work all the time. Obviously, he got tackled right after that, but he's capable of stopping on a dime and changing direction and doing those things in the open field. If these two defenders aren't there, he's gone to the end zone. So, like, that's kind of what I see Joe Shane, Brian Dable kind of looking at. Like, if we can get him into space, those 1v1 battles with a little bit more room, he's going to win those open field battles, and he's going to churn out a couple more yards. So I like that about him. So here's the biggest play for Wan'Dale Robinson of this entire film, I believe. I think it's a little jet sweep. Bam. And he takes this almost to the house. So this is where he, like, the speed, you want to, like, he's just get that extra gear. Like, he gets caught by that safety there. He runs out of gas. I mean, looks like he's been running for a minute there. But you'd like to have him that extra gear. I mean, look, I'm not going to complain about a 60-yard run. That's not what I'm here to do. But I will say, like, I'd love for him to have that extra gear to just get this to the end zone. The Giants are not a good red zone offense. Daniel Jones is arguably one of the worst quarterbacks in the red zone in the league. So unfortunately, like, you kind of want these guys to score in these scenarios. You don't want to put them in a position where they got to score from the 10-yard line, especially last year. Hopefully the scheme and the personnel is a lot better. But this was a really nice play, and another little gadget scenario where you're seeing, like, he's a lot better as a gadget player than he is as a receiver at times, and then vice versa. Like, I like him as a receiver. Don't get me wrong. He's a good route runner, but like the most value I see from him is on these jet sweeps and end arounds and like these screen passes. Like that's where I really see the most of his value. And like I said, he's also a good deep. He's not a bad deep ball catcher. Like if you can get him some room in 1v1 coverage, he made 16 deep catches last year. But like the more I watch him, I'm just like, he's such a lethal guy as a gadget kind of player and a screen pass catcher. Like I imagine that's kind of how the Giants are going to use him at the next level. But I guess we'll have to see what they do on the field because I mean he does have other talents, but against NFL level talent, I just don't know yet really what he's going to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, I'll say though on this play, this is a really long gain. I see great acceleration. Pretty much as soon as he gets the ball and turns upfield, he hits his top gear. Like he hits his top speed as soon as possible. Watch right here, turns upfield, and then boom, he's flying. And then also the change of direction, the vision, that stuff is really good. It's traits of a running back, but he's a receiver. So, when you're talking about him being a gadget player, talking about him being a damn good gadget player because he's got traits that a running back would have. And that might be because he used to play running back, right? So, you just see some really great change of direction. You see some great vision. You see a lot of acceleration. I do see a lot of straight line speed. I think that he is a really fast player. I don't think he's the fastest player on the field, but he doesn't necessarily need to be. He got the team into scoring position here on a gadget play, of course, but it was a good play, and it did show some of the ability that he has with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like he does have good speed. His game speed seems to be a little bit better. He has good like 0 to 60, right? His 0 to 60, like he gets to top speed like really, really fast, and he can do that on the move too. Put that foot in the ground and just get to his top speed. His top speed isn't like a Lamborghini; it's probably more like a Ford Taurus. But at the end of the day, he's getting to 0 to 60. He's getting 0 to 60 like a Tesla, but his top speed is probably like, I don't know, if you're a car guy, like a Subaru WRX, maybe like, I don't know. What's another car, Anthony? Are you into cars? What kind of top speed would you compare him to if he was a car?
I don't know. I don't know how to make that
Like a
comparison,
Corvette,
to be
maybe?
honest.
Like he's
But
like a
let's say
Corvette.
I'll make a football comparison. If Tyreek Hill is the epitome of speed and Jalen Waddle is underneath him, I think there's a long list of guys that comes next before Wan'Dale Robinson. So
That's fair. That's fair. He's like Sterling Shepard speed. Maybe like his straight
I
line
think
speed's
he's a
like Sterling
touch
Shepard.
faster than Sterling, especially now
Touch
at
faster.
Sterling's age. But you know,
Young Sterling.
that might
Young
be a
Sterling.
similar. That might be a
Young
similar
Shep.
speed. He's a little bit faster though.
Okay, a little bit faster than Young Shep. So visualize that. Okay, so I think this is just another angle of the longer play here. I mean, man, when you have a guy that can take a jet sweep to the house nearly, it's definitely valuable, I'll tell you that. And his open field, I mean, this DB gets absolutely toasted. I mean, really damn good makeup speed, though, from that defensive back. That guy's flying. So shout out to that DB for catching him. That was pretty impressive. So yeah, that basically concludes the film portion of this episode. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson, look, he has a lot of talent, man. The guy can take a pass to the house any given moment. He's a dominant screen catcher. He's dominant with the ball in his hands in the open field. If the Giants are going to really incorporate a spread offense into their system, he's going to thrive. Like, how can you, if you're running like bunch formations with KT, with Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson, and you're confusing like these mesh routes and these rub routes, like you get him into space and he's going to be a monster. Like he's going to really perform well for you. They have good blocking receivers too. Like Kenny Golladay and Sterling Shepard are great blocking receivers. So you get those guys in front. Daniel Bellinger, our new tight end, dominant blocker. Get those guys into space at the second level and let Wan'Dale work. That's not a bad scheme to follow. It's not a bad idea to kind of exercise. So I do see the skill here, Anthony. I do see what the Giants may be looking to do with him. A lot of pre-snap motion, really getting those defenders moving, really giving your quarterback, Daniel Jones, a lot more information before the snap so we can better understand his progressions and really get through things. But, like, what is your impression of Wan'Dale Robinson, like, final kind of overall look? Obviously, we haven't seen him on the field yet for the Giants, but, like, how do you think that they're going to really use him, like, as more of a gadget player or kind of a good balance?
So, is it my favorite draft pick? No. Am I going to cry about it? No. I think that he is a very good gadget player, and I think that's how he's primarily going to be used in the Giants offense. I think he's probably WR4 or 5, right? You got KG as number 1, you got Shep as 2, you got KT as 3, you got Slayton as 4, wide receiver 5 is Wan'Dale. But let's keep in mind, what was that 2021 season looking like once KG, KT, Shep, and Slayton were all down with injuries? Who was starting was Dante Pettis as our WR1. So it's not a bad thing for the Giants to be adding depth at a position of need, because the Giants wide receiver position, I mean, right now looks pretty solid on paper, but keep in mind, Sterling Shepard is likely gone after this upcoming season. Kenny Galladay, if he doesn't step up, could be traded down the line, right? Darius Slayton, they were shopping him earlier this offseason. This could be his last season with the team. So then you're talking about it being Wan'Dale and Kadarius Toney as the only two wide receivers under contract next season. So they needed to draft more receivers. They drafted one in the second round. They got a guy that they really like. They think that he can be really creative in his usage. He can be used as a gadget player, and maybe they can develop him into being more of an actual wide receiver. So I think that's what they see with him. I think that's what I see with him. Right now, he is a gadget player. Hopefully, he can develop into something more, but he's also solid depth. And especially when you're talking about the injuries at wide receiver, talking about Kadarius Toney dealing with a lot of injuries last season. And yes, Wan'Dale Robinson's skill set is pretty similar to Kadarius's. I think Kadarius is far more refined as a route runner and as a wide receiver, but in terms of being a gadget player, they have very similar playing styles. So I think that's probably where the Giants were looking at it from. This is a player who can step in if Kadarius Toney gets hurt, but he's also solid depth. And since Kadarius Toney is a little bit better as an outside or a slot receiver, as a wide receiver, we can use this guy really frequently as a gadget player because people won't know which side of the ball or which side of the field is the gadget coming from. Is it coming from Kadarius or is it coming from Wan'Dale? It's kind of like fire and ice in a way. You know, you got two different options. Pick your poison, basically. So I think there is value in Wan'Dale. Again, it's not my favorite draft pick. In the second round, I thought it was a little rich for my taste to be taking Wan'Dale Robinson that early, but he is a pretty good player. He does have some value. I think ultimately, year one, he's going to remain as a gadget player, but I could see his role increasing and expanding as the weeks go on and as his career develops. So again, I like the pick. It's not my favorite pick. Well, maybe I don't really like the pick, but I think there is value to the pick, and I'm excited to see what Wan'Dale Robinson can be for the Giants.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think if he puts up 700 yards and 3 touchdowns next year as a rookie in this type of role, I'd be very happy. Like, eventually Sterling Shepard's going to be gone, and Wan'Dale's going to kind of take those snaps and let him develop for a season, let him kind of act as a security blanket, screen pass catcher. God, the dyslexia kicked in there. And I think that ultimately, like, he could be a really great player for this team, but it comes down to coaching, comes down to development, comes down to the scheme. If the Giants can develop a really great scheme to really extrapolate on his strengths, you're going to see him become a great player. However, we've seen a lot of Giants coaches in the past couple of years really just torment these players, like Kenny Galladay, Saquon, like, have not used them correctly. I want to give Dable and Kafka the benefit of the doubt based on what they've accomplished in the past. But sometimes it just falls apart. Like, who knows? But, obviously I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt now. I'm hoping that they can really get this offense jump started, and hopefully we can see a lot better production this upcoming year, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Wan'Dale Robinson in the comments below. Let me know what car you compare him to in terms of top speed. Just a weird question, but I think it's kind of interesting and fun. Make sure to like and subscribe as always below on YouTube, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants video.
TVSO.